We're starting a Kufnan Hey Amid Beis, towards the bottom of the Yamid. The first word in the line is Atzman, where it says Omar Abaya. Most of the Gemara today is actually Agadata, but we begin with the Gemara that discusses what it said in the Mishnah B'negeh to feeding chickens on Shabbos. So it said you're allowed to force feed the chickens on Shabbos, but then when you take water and you add it into the bran, so it said in the Mishnah you could add the water to the bran, but you're not allowed to mix it, because then when you mix it, that's kneading the water and the bran, so this is Isser of Losh. Amar Abaye, Amrite Kamei de Mar. I said this Mishnah in front of the master, which is Rabbah. Masnisen Mani. Who does this Mishnah go according to? Vamali, and he answered me, Rabbi Yosi bar Yehuda he. This Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Yosi bar Yehuda. The Tanya we learned in a Braisa, and we had this Braisa a long time ago here in Masechta Shabbos. Echad neisnes hakemach. If you have one individual that's putting flour, ve'echad neisnes teichei mayim. Another individual comes and adds water. Ha'achrin chayiv, the one that added water to the flour, is chayiv for kneading. Divrei Rebbe. In other words, Rebbe holds that the malacha of kneading does not require actual mixing. The very fact that you put the water into the flour and it gets mixed to some degree, automatically, just adding that ingredient to the water is the malacha of kneading. No, the chiyuv of kneading of losh is only if you're actually mixing it. So therefore, that's what our Mishnah is saying. You're allowed to put the water into the bran, but you're not allowed to mix it. Like Rav Yosef bar Yehuda said. Frag the Gemara, what's the comparison? Dilme ad kan lekam Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda hasam elo kemach. Over there, Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda is talking about adding water to flour, and there Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda says that you only chayiv if you actually mix the water and the flour. The bar gibelhu, because water and flour becomes mixed into a dough. It actually becomes the real dough. Aval mursan, but bran, the lav bar gibelu. It doesn't turn into a dough the way it is with flour. So maybe Afil Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda Maide, so even Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda would agree that this is not similar to the regular case. In such a case, as soon as you put the water into the bran, that's already the completion of the process. You're going to mix it, it's not really going to turn into a dough. In a case when it turns into a dough, so losh consists of dafkin kneading it and turning it into a dough. But if it's anyways not going to turn into a dough, so over there maybe just putting the water into the bran is the malacha. So according to this, the Gemara is basically asking a question, because if that's true, so then both Rebbe and Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda would hold that it's also to put water into the bran, even without mixing. So the question is, who's the Tana of the Mishnah here that says that you're allowed to put water into the bran? So the Gemara answers, Lo yisal kadaitach. You can't say that Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda would agree in the case of bran. Why not? The Tanya Behedya, we learned clearly in a Braisa regarding this case. Ein noisnem mayim l'mursan, you're not allowed to put water into the bran, divrei Rebbe. Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda, ein noisnem mayim l'mursan. You're allowed to put the water into the bran, but you're only not allowed to mix it. So we clearly see in the Braisa that this is the machlekes of Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda and Rebbe, in this case of the water and the bran. However, as we'll see right now in the Hemshech of the Gemara, what the Gemara suggested, that there's a difference between flour and water and bran, is not completely refuted, because Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda will agree that in the case where you put water into bran, there's no isser of losh min atayra, because it never becomes into a dough. The concept of losh is that you take one entity, water and flour, and you turn it into a new entity of dough. Over here, the water and the bran doesn't really mix in that way, so this is only a isser of losh midrabanan. But the Issa of Lash Midrabanan is only when you actually mix it, not if you just put the water there. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a Braisa, Ein goivlin es hakoli, you're not allowed to mix water into koli, which is flour that was roasted. The yesh oimrim goivlin. And others say you are allowed to. So this is similar to bran, it doesn't mix the same way as regular flour does. So the second opinion says you're allowed to mix it. Man yesh oimrim. Who's the opinion that's saying that you're allowed to mix this on Shabbos? This follows the opinion of Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda. The basis of Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda's opinion is that real losh is when something mixes well. And over here, this koli doesn't mix well, so therefore minatayre, there's no isser of losh. So what's pshat that it says you're allowed, but l'chayre midrabana there should still be a isser? So the Gemara explains, v'hane mili hu de mishani. The reason why he's saying over here that mixing this roasted flour together with the water is allowed is because he's doing it with a shinui. Since it's only asim midrabanan, it doesn't mix properly b'chlal, and he's doing it with a shinui, so therefore it's allowed. And what's the shinui? Heichi mishani. Rav Chisda al yad. When you do a little bit at a time, that's considered to be a shinui and it's allowed. In the hemshech of that brayset that the Gemara just quoted, it says, Vishavin, Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda, or it doesn't, sorry, that was before, but in this brayset where there was a yesh oimin, there was an argument here. So they both Tanaim and that brayset agree, Sheboichashin es hashosis. You could mix shosis. As we'll see in a moment, shosis is some kind of a mixture of flour and vinegar. So you're allowed to mix the shosis, b'Shabbos. V'shaisim zeisum mitzri, and you're allowed to drink. This is l'chayda an unrelated thing, but it's also some kind of a mixture, so it brings it in over here. You're allowed to drink zeisum mitzri. What zeisum mitzri? We had this once before. It's some kind of a beer from Mitzri, an Egyptian beer that is used for medicinal purposes. And we know on Shabbos is exeda not to drink anything for refuah, but because it's a beer that people also drink b'chlal, so therefore you're allowed to drink it on Shabbos. So the Gemara says, what does it mean when it says boichashin is hashasis? Everyone agrees that you could mix shasis. Isn't that also regular kneading? You're mixing flour. Frek the Gemara, v'ha'amrit ein goivlin. In the beginning of that brayse it says ein goivlin, that everybody holds that you can't mix. The Tanna Kama says that you can't mix koli together with water because it's lush. So why all of a sudden is shasis any different? And says the Gemara, you know what this shasis is? Loikashia ha ba'ove ha beraka. When you have a mixture that creates a thick mixture like a dough, so then it's not allowed. But if it's a more liquidy mixture, which is what shasis is, so then it is allowed. That's the reason why everyone agrees that shasis could be mixed. But even when it's more liquidy, when is it allowed? Who the mishani? If he's making a shini, what's the shinui? Heichi mishani. What change do you have to make? Amar Rav Yosef b'choil neisenes achaymet. During the week, what's the regular way of this mixture? You put vinegar first, v'achakach neisenes hashasis. Then you add shasis, which was the flour. B'Shabbos neisenes hashasis. On Shabbos, first you put in the flour, v'achakach neisenes achaymet, and then you put in the vinegar. That's the shini that's allowed in a kind of a mixture that's not a regular mixture that's thick. It's a liquidy mixture. Levi berei de Rav Huna bar Chia. Levi, the son of Rav Huna bar Chia, ashkechei legabla de Beinashia. He saw the gabla, the one that used to do the job of kneading in the house of his father. The kagabel v'sofi le'leture. On Shabbos, he was making a mixture, and he was force feeding the cow. Batashbe, he kicked him. He was very upset to see that he was doing something which is asar on Shabbos. Right? What did we learn in the Mishnah? You could add water, but you're not allowed to mix it. Asavua Ashkeche, his father came. Rav Huna, his father came. Amalei, so he saw what happened. So he told Levi, Hachi Amavua de Imech Mishmei de Rav. This is what your mother, the father of your mother, said in the name of Rav, your grandfather, in other words. Umanu, who was this? Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. Goivlin v'loy maspen. You are allowed to make this mixture on Shabbos, but you're not allowed to force feed the animal. Udeloy lokit. This is going back to what we learned before, that when it comes to force feeding an animal, there's certain oifanim how you are allowed to force feed, certain oifanim that you're not. If it's an extra tirche, you're not allowed. Udeloy lokit belishnei. An animal that cannot swallow properly with its tongue, mahalkitin, you could force feed them. You could force feed them because otherwise it can't eat it on its own. But the point is that you're allowed to make this mixture, but you're not allowed to force feed to a certain extent, like we learned already. The Gemara, the Mishnah before says, when are you allowed to make this mixture on Shabbos? Only if you're doing it with a shini. Heichi mishani, what's the shini that you make? Omer Rav Yemer bar Shalmiya mishmei dabaye shesi ve'erev. The shini has to be usually when you mix something. So how do you mix? You stir it around, and it's going around. But over here, the shini that you're making is that you're not going around, but you're going cross, just one way and the other way without going around. So that's the shini. Frek the Gemara v'holei ma'arav shaper. But if you're going to mix that way, it's a shini, but it's just not going to mix it properly. Rav Yehuda menare lekeli. Besides going in crosswise and mixing it that way, you also have to shake the keli to mix it up. That's the shini that you make. So the Gemara gave over here 3 different options of shinuyim. One shini is that you do it very little at a time. Another shini is that the mixture, the ingredients, you change the order of entering the ingredients. And the third shini is an actual shini in the way you're doing the mixing itself. Sagt die Gemara weiter, Kosev apim Kosei de Zeiri. It was written in the notebook of Zeiri. Amris Kadem Rebbe. I said in front of my Rebbe. Umane, who was this? Reb Chia. Ma'al legabel. Are you allowed to be megabel? Are you allowed to do this mixture for the animal on Shabbos with a shinui? Obviously, that's based on what we just learned. It has to be done with a shinui. Omar Osir. He said it's Osir. So basically, he's paskening like Rebbe that said it's not allowed. Ma'u lefarik. How about lefarik? Rashi's pshat lefarik is, learned about this before, that you take food from one basket that was designated for one animal, and you want to bring it over to a different basket for a different animal. So it's a question of muktzeh. Will the other animal eat what was already designated for another animal? Whole discussion about this in the Gemara before. So he asked him, is this allowed to be done on Shabbos? Omar mutter. He said that is allowed. Taisus' pshat and lefarik is, it's not talking about bringing the food from one basket to another. It's talking about, similar to what we said before, if you want to mix something, but you're not going to mix it in the regular way. What you're going to do is, you're going to pour it from one keli to another. By pouring it from one keli to another, that's how the mixture will happen. So that, he said, is allowed. Rav Menashie said, this is another detail, another halacha regarding feeding animals. And again, the basis, the concept of when it comes to feeding animals is, you're not allowed to do anything that's an extra tirche. So Rav Menashie says, chad kamichad, putting one food in front of one animal, that's allowed. Trei kametrei, 2 portions for 2 animals is also allowed. Shapir dami. Tlasa kametrei, 3 portions in front of 2 animals, which is extra, that's the extra tirche and it's not allowed. Rav Yosef disagrees. Rav Yosef says, kav, for the kabayim, you could put 1 kav, 2 kavim, ulama, kor, vafila kurayim. You could put a kor or even 2 kor, which is a massive amount of food, in front of one animal. There's no kipeda in what amount of food you're putting there. You're allowed to put in front of the animal as much food as you want, even on Shabbos. Ksiv a pinkisei de Levi. It was written in the notebook of Levi. Omris Kadam Rebbe, I said in front of Rebbe, and who's his Rebbe? Umane Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Al dahavo gavlin shasisa bebavel. On those people that used to mix the shasisa in Bavel, v'havet tzavach Rebbe. And Rebbe would scream about it. He wasn't happy about it. And Manu, who was this? Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Right? As we said before, Rebbe argued with Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda. Rebbe held that you're not allowed to make these kinds of mixtures. You're not allowed even to add water without making the mixture. Rebbe held just adding the water is already lush. Al dahava gavlin shasise. So Rebbe was screaming about the fact that they were making this mixture, but v'les tashmiele. Nobody listened to him, and v'les chayle biyadei lemeser. And Rebbe, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, did not have the koyach to answer it. Why not? With Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda, because of the opinion of Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda that says that as long as you're doing it with a shinoi, it's allowed. So therefore, Rebbe didn't have the koyach to answer this. Ksiv al Pinkase de Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. In the notebook, once we're looking into other people's notebooks, so the Gemara allows you to look a little further. So it says in the notebook of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Hai man de b'chad b'Shabbat, a person that's born on Sunday. Yihi gever v'loy chod bei. He will be a person that will have just one nature, and he won't have any other nature in him. What does this mean? Mai v'loy chod bei. What does it mean he won't have another nature in him? Are you saying that he's going to have one very bad character and he won't have the koyach to have another nature to go against that bad character he has? How could that be? Ravashi said, I was born on a Sunday. Now obviously Ravashi, being Ravashi, was a person that was able to, even if he had a bad nature, he was able to overcome it. What it means is that he won't be able to, he has one good character, and he won't have a negative, opposing character that he'll have to fight. But Ravashi also told us, Ano v'dimi bar kakuzta havyam b'chad b'shabba. Myself and this individual, Dimi bar Kakusta, were born on a Sunday. Ano malach, I became a king. Ravashi became a big Rosh Hashiva, like a king, to teach Torah. And v'hu haveresh ganve, and he became the head of the thieves. So I see that even a person born on Sunday has a bishu, has a bad nature. Ella, so the pshat over here is, a person born on Sunday has one nature to him. I kula letivu, or it's going to be all for the good. I kula lebishu, or it's going to be fully for the negative. It's going to be one extreme or the other. Nothing in between. My time, what's the reason? The Ivru Bey Oir V'Choshech. Sunday is the day that light and darkness is created. So you have one nature, and it could be either used to go very high in good, to become a melech, or to go very low in the negative, to become a head of thieves. We're going to see here the Gemara is going to tell us. The Gemara is going to tell us all kinds of different things about the nature of a person, depending on what day of the week he's born, depending on what mazal he's born. But you see right away from the first thing that the Gemara brings up over here that all of these things are certain natures, certain characteristics that a person is born with, but it could be used for the positive or it could be used for the negative. The same as with all the other things that the Gemara says here. One that's born on Monday, Yehei Gvar Ragzan, will be a person that will be an angry person. My time, Mishum Deiflu Gebei Maya, because it's the day that the water was separated, the water above and below was separated, and it created the Machlaikis. A person that's born on Tuesday, Yehei Gvar Aser, will be a rich person, Vizanoi Yehei, but will have promiscuous behavior. My time, Mishum Deivru Be'asavim, because grass is created in this day. What's the connection of grass to having promiscuous behavior? So Rashi here says, because grass grows wild. So it shows on the wild anhag of a person. Or another pshat Rashi says, everything else in creation, the Torah says, liminehu, everything sticks to its kind. By grass, you see the way it grows, all kinds of grass and weeds grow with one another, and they're not careful in the way they connect to each other. Sagt der Gemara weiter, Hai man de barba b'Shabbat. If you're born on Wednesday, Yehei gvar chakim v'noir. You're going to be a wise person and you have a glowing face. My time, mishum de'itlu be'ma'eris. This is the day that the ma'eris, the sun and the moon, will hang in the sky. Hai man de b'chamisha b'Shabbat. If you're born on Thursday, Yehei gvar goyim l'chasadim. You'll be a person that will do gemilas chesed. My time, mishum de ivri bay dog and vaifis. This is the day that the fish and the birds were created, and Rashi explains the fish and the bird, they don't have any way of really providing food for themselves. The Eibishter is the one that's mazman, that brings the food for them to be able to eat, so they get fed by the kindness of the Eibishter. So they represent the union of chesed. Haiman de b'mayla Shabbat, a person that's born on Friday, Yehi Gvar Chazran, will be a person that will always be going out and looking to do and to always busy doing things. Omer Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, busy with doing what? Chazran b'mitzvahs. Always be busy in finding to do mitzvahs. As the Gemara explains, or Rashi explains actually, that the reason is because Friday is the day that a person is busy doing mitzvahs. And the Marsha adds to Erev Shabbos, and the Marsha adds to that this also refers to the time of creation as well. When Adam Rishon was born, the Eibusher right away gives him mitzvahs. Most of the Sheva mitzvahs, 6 of the Sheva mitzvahs were given to Adam Rishon on that day, and therefore, right when he was born, he was busy with doing mitzvahs.
He also messed up on Friday.
Haiman, like everything else that it says here. All the things that it says here could go for the positive or go for the negative. Sagt the Gemara, Haiman de b'Shabse, a person that's born on Shabbos itself. B'Shabse Yehi, he is born on Shabbos, B'Shabse Yomus, he'll pass away on Shabbos as well. Why is this? Al da'achilu aloi yoyim d'rabbe Shabse, because there were machal Shabbos for him when he was born, so he'll pass away on Shabbos as well. Right, so the Mefarshim speak about this, that you see a lot of people that are born on Shabbos do not pass away on Shabbos. So it's totally in a person's, if a person has chusim or mitzvahs, a person lav dafka will pass away on Shabbos. Like the other things that it said over here, that a person, it's totally in what a person does. So this also is not necessarily mekuyim kipshutei. The Marsha says that this, he says fakert, this Gemara only refers to those tzaddikim that pass away on the day that they're born. Those people that the Eibush is mamalish neseim yoyim liyoyim, so they pass away on the same day on Shabbos. As we see here, the Gemara says in the positive, a person that's born on Shabbos, Omar Rava bar Rav Shila, the Kadisha Rabba Yiskari. A person that's born on Shabbos is called Kadisha Rabba. It's a great holiness, because he's born on Shabbos, Shabbos Kodesh. Amol Rab Chanina says, Puku Omru Leila Bar Levoy, go out and tell Bar Levoy, which is Rabbi Shua ben Levi. So after they read to him and they said everything that it says in his notebook, so he says, go out and tell him, Loi Mazal Yoim Geirim. It's not the Mazal of the day that causes the nature of the person, Ela Mazal Shah Geirim. The hour in the day is what's Geirim, the nature of the person. And here, the Gemara brings a different mazalis. We had this once before, benegea to the whole sugya of bloodletting. If you remember, the Gemara discussed when's the right time for a person to do bloodletting and when it's not a good mazal. A person should not do bloodletting. It could cause a sakana. So we spoke about it then, and Rashi there brings it bariches that there are 7 mazalis that keep on changing. Every hour there's another mazal. And Rashi here brings it as well, chankal shatzam. As we'll see here, the Gemara is going to go through the 7 mazalis, and the person's teva is based on what mazal he's born in. Hai man de bachama, a person that's born in the mazal of the sun, yihi gvar zifson, he'll be a person which will have a glow, he'll shine. And yihi achal medilei, and he'll have what to eat from himself. He'll be able to provide for himself like the sun that has its own light. V'shasim delay, he'll drink from himself. V'razoi galyam, but his secrets will always be open to everybody. Like the sun, the light of the sun is open and exposed to everybody. Im ganev, if he's going to try to steal money, loy mitzlach, he won't succeed. Hai man de bekaychav, a person bekaychav noiga, a person that's born in the mazal of noiga. Yihi gvar osir, he'll be very rich, but v'zanoi, he'll also have a teva of being a promiscuous behavior. Yihi. He'll have this teva. My time, what's the connection to the Indian of Noiga? Mishum de Yalad Bein Nura, because he's born in a time where there's the Noiga, which has a burning fire in it. So this is the burning passion of the Yetzer Hara. Haiman de Bekoichav, the one that's born in the Mazel of Koichav. This Mazel itself is called Koichav. Yihi Gvar Noir V'chakim. He'll shine and be wise. Like this Koichav that shines. Mishum, and the reason why it's he's going to be shining and wise is also Mishum the Safra, the Chamra, who, because this is the only one of the mazalais that goes along with the sun. All the other mazalais go along with the Levana. This is the only one that goes along with the sun. Hai man de Levana, the person that's born in the mazal of the Levana, yihi gvar savel, he'll be a person that will suffer, like the Levana itself that became minimized. Marin, savel marin that is, he'll suffer pains. Banoi, v'saser, he'll build and he'll demolish. Saser, banoi, after he demolishes, he'll build again. Like the moon that gets larger and smaller during the month. Achil, the loy delay, he'll have to eat from what's not his. V'shasi, the loy delay, and drink from what's not his, like the moon that gets its light from the sun. V'razoi kasyan, and all of his secrets will be hidden from everybody. Im ganev mitzlach, if he'll steal money, he'll be matzliach, like the moon that's concealed. Hai man de b'shapsoi, a person that's born in the mazel of shapsoi, yihi gvar machshavosei b'teilen. He'll be a person that all of his ideas will become annulled. The word shapsoi means to seize. V'ist amri, others saying, where am I reading over here? Omer Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, Rabbi Yachim Yitzchak says the opposite, that no, you're right, I said it right, I'm sorry. V'ist amri, kol de machshavin aleh b'teilin. All the negative things that people think about him will become bottle. Fakert, he'll be able to do all of his things that he wants, because whatever other things people plan on him will be bottle. Hai man de b'tzedek, a person that's born in the mazel of tzedek, yihi givar tzatkan. He'll be a person that's a tzatkan. He'll always look for mitzvahs. Amar Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, v'tzatkan b'mitzvahs. He'll be a tzaddik to looking for mitzvahs. Hai man de b'madim, a person that's born in the mazel of madim, yihi givar ashedama. He'll be a person that will spill blood. Amar Rav Ashi, I umne. Either he'll be a bloodletter, I ganve, or he'll be a ganev and kill people, I tavche, or he'll be a shaychet, I mayala, or he'll be a mayal. So this is again where you see this concept that he's born with this nature, but it can be used for the positive or the negative. And the same is with everything else it says there. Omar Rabbe, ano b'madim avoy, I was born in Madim, and I don't have any of this nature. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't. Amar Abaye, it's not true. Mar nami onish v'kotel. You also punish people when people don't listen to what Rabbe says. We had before that Rabbe, the people in the city of Pumbedisa, where Rabbe was a Rav, nobody in the city liked him. If you remember, the Gemara they said apparently he was a Rav that ruled with an iron fist. And the kotel, he also killed. The Gemara say this refers to the famous story of Kam Rabbe v'shachtil Rab Zera on Purim, when Rabbe got up and shechted Rab Zera, and that's because he was born in Mazel Madim. Sagt the Gemara weiter, so now that we said that the person's nature is all based on these mazalis, the Gemara brings a machlokes about this. Itmer, Rab Chanina Omer, mazel machkim. The mazel of a person makes him wise. Mazel masher, the mazel makes you rich. And v'yesh mazel Yisrael. There is a mazal regarding Yidden that takes effect their nature and what they have. Rabbi Yechanan Omar, ein mazal Yisrael. Rabbi Yechanan says there's no mazal for Yidden. V'azda Rabbi Yechanan al-Taimei, the Omar Rabbi Yechanan, we learned this once before in Gemara Brachas, minayin she'ein mazal Yisrael. From where do I see there's no mazal by Yidden? Shenema koyam Hashem al derech hagoyim al telamdu. Don't go in the ways of the goyim. Emoisis hashemayim al techasu. Don't be afraid from the signs, from the mazalis in the sky. Ki yechatu hagoyim mehema. Only the goyim have to be afraid of them. Heim yechatu v'lo Yisrael. Only the goyim are afraid and not the Yidden. Rashi here teaches the pshat of ein mazal Yisrael. If you take a look, Rashi says, al yidei tefillah zuchus mishtana mazal l'teva. It's not pshat that he's arguing with everything we said before. There is mazalis by Yidden, but a Yidden through davening and through schusim, you can be mishana his mazal l'teva. Which would then mean, l'chayre, that according to Rab Chanina, yesh mazal Yisrael, that even the tefillah and the schus of a person doesn't help. So the Marsha says, even according to Rab Chanina, it does help, but it only helps when there's a rabbim. There's a rabbim that could help, but l'gabi yochid, according to Rab Chanina, it doesn't help. Then there's the famous Chassidish pshat that the Rebbe brings in many places. The pshat of ein mazal Yisrael is ayin mazal Yisrael. That the ayin, which refers to chachma, or even higher to keser, which is above seder ishtalshalus, that's the shayrish of the mazal of a yid, because a yid has the koyach of mesiris nefesh, which is connected to chachma or keser, which means the gabi, this the koyachas of a person. Yeah, there is mazalis. In other words, it's really like mara machada loy pligi. You want to look at the regular koyachas of a person. He has a certain nature, he's born in a certain mazal, but a yid could connect to a level of ayin, and from that level of ayin, so then the koyach HaMesiris Nefesh, he could break through all boundaries, and the yid has no mazal. Sagt the Gemara weiter. So this was who said ein mazal Rabbi Yechanan. Now the Gemara says va'af Rav savar ein mazal Yisrael. Rav also holds this. Amar Rav Yud Amar Rav minayin shei mazal Yisrael. From where we see the Yidden have no mazalis. Shenema va'yotzei oisei achutza. The Eibusha tells Avram Avinu, I'm taking you outside. Amar Avram l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what happened here? Avram tells the Eibusha, Beine Shaleilam, Ben Beisi Yerishaisi. The person in my house, Eliezer, he's going to be the one that's going to yashin me. Amar Lei Lav, no. Kiyim Hasheyetzim mi meyecha. The one that comes from you, he will yashin you, a child, a son. Amar Lefan of Beine Shaleilam, Nistakalti b'tstagnina shali. I looked in my astrology. Ve'eni doi lahoilad ben. I can't give birth to a son. Amar Lei, the Eibusha responds to him, Tzei mi'tstagnina shalcha. Go out of your astrology. She'ein mazal Yisrael. There's no mazal for Yidden. My daitech, so the Eibusha tells Avram, what are you thinking? The koi tzedek b'mayrev, your mazel is tzedek. And tzedek is in Ma'ariv, and what's the problem with tzedek being in Ma'ariv? So Rashi here says that in Ma'ariv it's colder, and because it's in a place that's cold, so it can't give birth. Mahadrana makmina le b'mizrach, I'll take the mazel of tzedek and I'll put it in mizrach, and you'll be able to give birth. V'haina d'chsiv, it says, and we touch it regarding Avram, mi heyer mi mizrach tzedek, who is ma'ayrer, who elevates, or from Mizrach, this mazel of tzedek, Yikre'eyu l'ragloi. The Eibusha calls him out for the purpose of Avram to be able to give birth. So since Avram has no mazel, so all Yidden, all descendants from Avram have no mazel either.
It still goes through the system.
The system he's moving. Okay, he's moving the mazel. Yeah, that's the pshat of ein mazel. That there's the tefillah of Avram, the schusim of Avram had to be changed. We see also that Shmuel holds that there's no mazel for Yidden. The Shmuel v'Avlet, Shmuel and Avlet. Avlet was a guy, he was a chacham, a guy. Hava Yasvu, they were sitting together. We had before Avlet in the Gemara here. V'Hava Kozli Hanachin Shilagma. There were people that were going down to the pond. Amalei Avlet l'Shmuel. So Avlet tells Shmuel, "Hi Gavri, you see this person here? Ozl, he's going to go v'layasi, and he's not going to return. Tarik lechivyo umayis. A snake is going to bite him and he's going to die." Amalei Shmuel. So Shmuel says to Avlet, "I bar Yisrael who." If he's a Yid, so then he's going to go and he is going to return. Adi Yasvi, as they were sitting there, Ozalvasi, this individual came and returned. Come Avlet, so Avlet got up. Shadye letune, he threw down his basket or his package that he was carrying. Ashkech bechivye, the posik, vishadi betarti guvi. A snake that was cut into two was found there. So what happened? This person, while he was cutting reeds and brought it back from the pond, he cut the snake. So he saved his life. Amalei Shmuel, so Shmuel says to this person, "My of this, what did you do that you had a schus to be saved?" Amalei, so the person said as follows: Kol yoyme, every day, have a marminon rifte bahadi adodi. We have one basket. Everybody puts their bread into the basket, and then we share. We eat from this basket. V'achlinon, and that's how we eat. Ha'idna. So what happened now is ikechad minon. There was one person from the group to lehave leirifta. He didn't have a bread, and have a kamichsev, and he was embarrassed that everyone's going to put bread into the basket, and he's the one. He won't have anything to contribute. Amina lahu. So I told everybody, I'm going to get up. I'm going to get up and collect the food, the bread from everybody, and I'll make sure that this person won't be embarrassed. When I came to this person, I made believe as if I'm taking from him bread, and really I gave from my own bread. I gave an extra for this person. So that not only this person should have what to eat, but also he won't be embarrassed. So Shmuel said to him, no, mitzvah of this, you did a mitzvah. And Nafik Shmuel v'darish, Shmuel went out and darshened, it's tzedakah tatzel mimaves. Tzedakah saves a person's life from dying. That doesn't only mean that to save a person's life from a misa mishuna, like in this case, where the person was saved not to be bitten from a snake, it saves a person from any misa b'chlal. Yeah, so there's one pella on this Gemara. If Shmuel and if Avlet tells Shmuel that this person will go and not return because he's going to get bitten by a snake, so why didn't just Shmuel tell this person, Gainisht, don't go, there's a snake there, it's dangerous. So the Maharsha says because it was a svek. He didn't know b'chlal if this person is a Yid, and even if he is a Yid, this Avlet, this guy is saying that he's going to get bitten by a snake, he didn't know if that's going to happen or not. So therefore he allowed him to go.
It's a famous story with the Rebbe that if he knew about the plane, why didn't he? The plane that was hijacked. Yeah,
so the Rebbe said that he doesn't. Yeah, okay. Sagt die Gemara weiter. Mit der Rabbi Akiva nami ein mazal Yisrael. Rabbi Akiva also held that there's no mazal by Yidden. Where do you see this? The Rabbi Akiva avalei brate. Rabbi Akiva had a daughter, Omri elei Kaldoi. So Kaldoi, which are also astrologers, stargazers, they told Rabbi Akiva, Hahu yoime da aile lebei genona. On this day that your daughter is going to go into the Beit Nana, which is the place where the Chasna and the Kala meet, Tarek lechivya umisa. She's going to be bitten by a snake and die. Havadiiga amil satuva. Rabbi Akiva was very worried about this. Hahu yaiman that day, shaklasal lemichvanta. She took her brooch and that's the beguda. She stuck it into the wall. Esrami, what happened? She didn't realize this, but she stuck it straight into the eyes of a snake that was there in the wall that was coming to bite her. Letzafra in the morning, kika shaklala, when she wanted to take the brooch out of the wall, have a kasarich v'asi chivya basra. So she dragged along the snake that was stuck into the snake, and the snake came out. So she saw what happened, that her life was saved. So her father, Rabbi Akiva, said to her, "My of this, what did you do that you was zeicha that your life was saved?" Amralei, she said to him, "Bepanya, yesterday, late in the afternoon, before night, Asa Anya, Kara Bava, a poor person came and he was knocking on the door. Everybody was busy with the meal eating. And nobody listened to him. I got up, the Kala herself got up, I took my portion, the Yahavasli that you gave me, and I gave it to this poor person. Allah, so Rabbi Akiva told her, mitzvah of this, he did a mitzvah, and Nafik Rabbi Akiva v'darish, Rabbi Akiva went out and darshened, that tzedakah tatzel mimaves, tzedakah saves a person from death, v'loi mimisa mishuna, ela mimisa atzma, tzedakah saves a person from death. And from Rab Nachman by Yitzchak we also see that ain't mazal Yisrael, that there's no mazal by Yidden. The imei, the Rab Nachman by Yitzchak, the mother of Rab Nachman by Yitzchak, Omri la Kaldoi, stargazers told her, Bereich ganvave, your son is going to be a thief. She didn't allow him to ever go with his head uncovered. Omra lei, she said to him, Kasi reishech, make sure you cover your head, Kihechi de tehevi alach emse de shmaya, in order that you should have Yiras Shamayim. And besides that, you also have to daven that you should have Yiras Shamayim. Lo have yada amai. So he never understood. His mother told this to him as a child, from a very young age. He never understood what's the reason for this. Amai kamrele, why she said this to him. Yoim echad Yosef kagaris tusidikla. One day she was sitting, and he was sitting, that is, under a palm tree. And according to some Mefarshim, this still happened when he was young, when he didn't grow up and become Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, but he was still in a young age. He was sitting there under a palm tree. Nafal glima mi'ala elave reishe. The glima, his head covering, the garment that was on his head, fell off. Dali eine, he picked up his eyes. Chazi ledikle, he saw the palm tree. And alme yitzre, and the Yetzer Hara overpowered him. Salik paske likibure b'shinei. And he went up and he cut off a cluster of dates with his teeth. So we see that the only way that he was saved from the Yetzer Hara was because he was wearing a head covering. The Marsha is Medayik in this Gemara. He says whenever you look in Shas, it says he says two things. First of all, it says you look in many places. You see that in those times there was the custom B'chlal, everybody wore a head covering. Not only special people. So what was B'chlal the Chiddush over here, that he was wearing a head covering? The second thing he says is, usually in Shas, the yarmulke is referred to as a sudar, handkerchief. That's what they used to call a yarmulke, handkerchief. Over here it's called a glima. So the Marsha says that this was an extra covering. It was a second covering. There was this yarmulke, and then there was a glima, another garment that his mother told him to wear on top of that. And from a very young age. That's the pshat of here. So this is one of the mekaydes for the fact that there's an inyan to have a double head covering for extra Yiras Shamayim. Yeah, they say the story, it's actually a story that happened to Rav Nachum Kaplan. I heard it from him a few times, but I don't remember exactly the details. That once in Pucking, in Germany, in the DP camp, he was walking when he was 2 years old without a yarmulke before his Absharnish. And the Rebbetzin noticed him, and the Rebbetzin told, Rebbetzin Chana, right, told his mother that he should wear a yarmulke.
I don't remember the details.
Yeah, but that says that he should wear a yarmulke. Even at that age, even before the Absharnish, that he should wear a yarmulke.
Yarmulke, Yare Malka.
That's the title of the word Yare Malka, exactly. Which is the Yiras Shamayim that it says over here, when you get to Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. And this Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak is the one that at the end of Masechta Saita, over there it says in the Mishnah, Batla Yiras Chet. And Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Loi Tisni Yiras Chet, Ika No. So he's the one that Taka wore this. And not only was his mother successful, that he did not become a Ganav and he had Yiras Shamayim, but he's the one that said that he had the greatest level of Yiras Chet, Ika No.
I think it's the minute by Nash to wear yarmulke even a baby, no? There's an Indian I've seen.
So Dodi was doing this. I'm not sure if you could say it's a minig Nash, but Dodi was doing this. But I'm repeating the story of Rebbetzin Chana that she said.
The thing is, we only do a double covering by some
davening.
No, when someone is bar mitzvah, we start
okay.
double covering.
Correct. Yeah, so that was also something.